I like to go now.
Hello. Hello, and welcome to our Strange New World review here on Live Long and Podcast. We're reviewing Season 2, Episode 8, Under the Cloak of War. I am your host.
Captain on the bridge?
Oh, I like that. That's how everyone should always greet me. Acting Captain Davan Skelhorn. And with me, delightfully, from Jamaica, sunny Jamaica, break out the Desmond Decker. Jamaica Jaemeel. How you doing, Jamaica Jaemeel?
I'm doing all right. I'm Irie.
I was about to say, you better be feeling irie over there in Jamaica.
Oh yes, I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Oh, good. Well, I got to tell you. Well, I should have given you a better intro. Podcaster, con goer, original creator of Live Long and Podcast.
Lord. Oh, that title.
Sure, he's done some stuff.
Yes.
But let's talk about this episode, shall we, Jaemeel? Get any opening thoughts? I have one. I friggin' love this episode. This is I probably passed out 3 or 4 11s. This is gonna be one of them. This is a perfect Star Trek episode. The best of this series so far, by far.
Okay, so let me just do a little backtracking because I wasn't able to give any thoughts for the previous episode.
Sure.
I haven't even listened to the review. And
the Lower Decks one.
Lower Decks, those old scientists.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, and I think this is gonna capture my thoughts about Strange New Worlds as a whole.
Mm.
I'm glad that all the difficulties that Star Trek has had in the last couple of years has led us to this point, because we're seeing now some of the best Trek content we've seen in years, right? And when I say years, I mean, Discovery, bless its heart, Abrams took a swing in it. Even the dying breaths of Enterprise. We're seeing some content that it's not even just the content itself. The content has galvanized the fan base. We see it coming from Comic-Con, right? You see the energy amongst the fan base, right? Where before, during the Abrams things, it was cool, right? But people didn't really love Star Trek. You're seeing people love Star Trek again, right? And that's exciting. And episodes like this that we're going to be talking about today, very exciting. Very exciting and very important as well, right? Which bless that you love other pieces of science fiction. Enjoy all the wars and stars that you love, but this is
Preach.
this is it. This is it. Okay.
Mm-hmm. This is why I love Star Trek episodes like this, because Star Trek not only explores the grand beauty of the galaxy, but also the human condition.
Yeah.
And when it does both, it does it like nothing else. Nothing else. Movies, TV, like Star Trek is the pinnacle of that. I think is like mixing that exploration of science and philosophy with the human condition. That's what it is at its best. I feel like at times it has forgotten that, like with the Abrams stuff. I don't think it really captured that. And Discovery, bless its heart.
Bless its heart. we got someone from Germany. Hello, Rafilang, 21.
Guten Tag. Isn't that one? Guten Tag.
Greetings. It's always great to have folks worldwide.
Yeah.
Right? Nationwide, Milky Way wide, universe wide. Come and break bread with us as we talk Trek.
Yeah. So for me, I was slagging season 2 just a little bit because it had a couple clunkers for me. But now that it's had 2 of the finest Star Trek episodes of all Star Trek, really. I mean, Ad Astrum per Aspera was really good as well. Though I think this one's quite a bit better than that.
Yeah. I
But
think,
again, great episode. So I'll let the clunkers go. We've broken even on that, and it's just another very good season
well,
of
I
Star
wouldn't
Trek.
necessarily call them clunkers,
Toronto
although I
episode
do.
was a clunker, Jaemeel. That was a clunker.
I'd say that even if you didn't like the Toronto episode, I've heard a share fair people that did enjoy it.
Were they from
So
Toronto?
no, they weren't actually.
Were they Chris Murphy?
They were not Chris Murphy.
Okay,
I
okay.
will say that there's a smorgasbord of treats that you can enjoy in this season, and
Oh yeah.
some of them are black licorice, which has a particular taste for some folks,
Not for
and
me.
others
Not for me.
not for you. Um,
Give
I
me
don't
those
know how you.
Ackies.
I don't know how you're going to react to the musical episode coming
I
up.
don't know either. I hope I love it or at least like it. I hope there's a Miles O'Brien in the background playing a cello or something. Like but I don't know. I don't know what to expect from it other than I feel like a little bit of this season is a little bit I don't know want to say phoned in, but like maybe like readjusted because they had to find out that Pike wasn't going to be with them for most of it because he had a baby. So
Yeah,
I feel like they had him in a lot of these stories, and then they had to take that out and just kind of cobble together replacement bits. And I feel like maybe it suffered a little bit from that.
I think it's also they have their writers' room set up, and they give the assignments to the different writers, or the different ideas are being brought to the writers, and you know. This is where you determine exactly who you kind of trust in your writers' room, and you make adjustments accordingly. Um, I will agree that some writers they might need to rethink and reposition them in terms of um, their frequency in Trek,
Ranking.
versus others who have seemingly consistently hit it out of the park.
Well, whoever
Um,
wrote this episode, I didn't look that up. I don't know if you did, but
I did not.
you are now
Whoever
a
it
legend,
is,
sir or madam. Like, holy crap.
you know what, and this is, I guess, a knock to Star Trek as a whole for that I've been kind of, let's say, conditioned. I was waiting for a shoe to drop. I'm like, okay, what's the but about this episode? What am I? What am I? There's going to be something that probably is going to be like, it was good up to a point, but it
Oh,
never came. It
no.
never came.
This is a perfect Star Trek episode and perfect episode of television. And might I
Yep.
add, Babs, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. I have to be reading it. Who plays in Benga? Um,
Babs. Oh,
is go
Olusun
for it, Jamil.
Monkun. Olusun Monku? Monkun? I apologize. I need to hear someone
We
pronounce
both
it.
apologize because what I was
Yeah.
about to say is, my God, you're a phenomenal actor, Babs. Like, like such a unique delivery, and
Hmm.
just like just dripping in like emotion, but also like subdued kind of feeling. And holy crap, like just from this episode alone, he might be my favorite Star Trek Doctor. I'm
Wow.
loving his performance in this. Like he is my favorite character on this show, and I think he might pass Phlox as my favorite Star Trek Doctor.
I just love that there's no shortcuts, right? There's no shortcuts in terms of the
No,
emotions and the feelings that
no,
he's portraying. Like everything seems earned, and there's a reason for it. So it's a combination of both the writing, the directing, and the performance all in like in sync to bring forth such a touching and heart wrenching performance.
yeah, it really
Yeah.
was. And it's layered, and like
Oh,
there's a bit of a what happened there at the end, and you sort of have to make up your own mind. Though I think it's a well, we'll get there. Let's bring
yeah.
this up. So I love the title card. I have that as my background on my laptop right now.
Star Trek. Hey, people used to rag on Star Trek. Where's the lens flares we used to hear a couple years ago? There's none of that anymore,
Don't need
right?
it. Don't even need bad lighting necessarily. Some episodes have it, but not necessarily all of them.
And
You can see what's
I'm
going on this ship.
I love the recap
Yeah.
because one, it doesn't seem heavy handed. It gives you the major points of where the characters are, So
Yeah,
look, the art of the recap is something that a lot of shows need to go back to school with. Sometimes they just replay the last episode.
they
This was
do
great.
instead of the important points that lead up to
Yeah.
this episode, which is it just establishes that there's three war veterans on this crew, basically, which we have Chapel, Mbanga, and Ortegas. Which was interesting because speaking of last episode, what do you give that, by the way, Jaemeel? Last episode.
Um, oh wow. Um, this episode really puts things into context. So
Yeah,
I would
but
have
oh
been
yeah, I know, right? I might have to go back and revisit all my rankings, but
I
that's
would have
why I have
given it
this
a
one's an
very
11. That's why this one's an 11.
I would have given it an extremely high mark. Um, but I would say 9.5. If I'm
Nice.
keeping within a 10,
Yeah.
it's my like I'm reading online in terms of how people felt about last episode, right? People are like, "Are you sure we can't do Lower Decks in live action?" Because
It won't work for
they
all of those actors. It's
it won't
like
work for all.
certainly Fred Tatasciore doesn't look like Shax. Like no one looks like Shax. Like
But like you're hearing people like, "Who's your favorite Star Trek character?" And it isn't like, "Well, this is what I got." There's so much to choose from, so many
oh
current
yeah.
people to choose from, which is
Oh,
crazy,
I love
right?
me some most of that lower decks crew,
Yeah,
and this crew. This crew is, and I love their dynamics with each other.
which
It's another golden age for Trek, man.
which
You're
which
right.
makes Discovery. Oh,
Look, it
Michael,
try bless its heart.
I'm not trying to rag on Discovery, but
I'll do it.
it kind of shows where the dynamic with the crew is something that they really missed the boat on, right? And
Yeah.
how many
And
compelling stories we could have gotten with a lot of those characters that seen Michael at her absolute worst in season
mm,
one, right? And to see her come as captain, there should be a lot more conflict, right? Conflicting
everything just seems
thoughts,
too
feelings.
easy on that
A little
show.
bit too easy. A little bit too easy.
Like it's
That being
a lot of
said,
just for the sake of moving things along.
yeah, that being said, my only thing I'm going to say about Discover anymore is that currently I am in an eBay battle to get myself some more Discovery content.
Trading cards.
Yes, and I'm currently winning the thing to get me some more Michael Chan. So,
Oh, do you got the you
Michael,
getting yourself a signed Michael Chan?
I'm getting some more signed Michael Chan.
What are you gonna do? You gonna be a signed Michael Chan dealer?
No, I'm gonna get them graded, and then I'm gonna wear them like a necklace, like what's his
Oh,
name with the Charizard, right? He can have his PSA 10 Charizard. I'm gonna have a PSA 10 Michael Chan.
there you go.
There you
I
go.
like it. I'm gonna have a necklace with a comic book in it.
Yes,
It's
Flavor
gonna be a
Flav.
little
That's a new
clunky.
future.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Oh
Well,
wait,
let's get into
on to
it.
this episode. Sorry.
So they're heading to the Prospero system because there's three planets in the Prospero system that have been at war a long time, but the Federation sent an ambassador there. And and successfully made peace between these three planets. And look who the ambassador is, a Klingon of all things,
Hmm.
especially at this point in Star Trek timeline, where it's quite fresh off the Klingon War. As we know, three members of this crew fought in that war, including at a brutal place called Jagal, which we'll find out about. And oh god, this is a good episode. So this Klingon is played by Robert Wisdom, who I looked it up, has been in a ton of things, and he's really good in this role.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah,
It's eerie. It's
yeah,
eerie because let's just say that previous iterations of Klingons in recent years have not been the most compelling, um,
agreed.
and uh,
They
this just
forgot what
kind of
Klingons were.
uh, yes, and how dynamic they could be,
Yeah,
right?
they're not all the same thing. No, exactly. They're all
A
very different.
monolith.
And
Yeah.
like almost every Klingon character we've met before, say, the Abrams Discovery era, was memorable. Like almost every single one was super memorable. Like the
Yep.
Gaurons, the Martoks, the Duras sisters, Chang, like
Yes.
all of them. Every Klingon we meet, Kor, Kang, like Koloth, like the Klingons are memorable and all for very different reasons, and they forgot that. Um, to your point that you were making earlier, and then we'll end with the Abrams era slagging. Um, but it does seem like there was that era was like, what else can we make Star Trek? People were thinking, like, what else can we take that brand and make it into something else? Where it's like that's not the way to treat a brand. I don't feel like if a brand is really significant and successful at doing a thing, like perfect that, tell more stories with that, and like you don't have to
But
make Star Trek Star
sometimes you
Wars.
forget. Sometimes you forget, right? And it's a
Yeah,
lesson to learn. Look, you know what? As
we're
much
back, baby.
as
We're back.
as I appreciate the people who at least got introduced to Star Trek during that era,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Because
They're all
you
going back
know
and watching the old stuff, so I hear.
you're in for an awesome ride. Because if
Mm-hmm.
you thought that was good, hold on to
Watch
your
Deep Space
pants.
Nine.
Oh, all right. Everyone's talking about they want gritty television. This is gritty television,
This
and what
episode is. I
you're
watched it
talking about
twice, and my heart like beats faster while I'm watching this episode. It's like it's
shows with an emotional punch, with characters well defined, their motivations well defined, right?
so.
Oh,
This guy is the former General D-
the Butcher of
Doc Ra,
Jakal.
the Butcher of Jakal. But now he's ambassador. But he's a full Federation ambassador. He's not a Klingon ambassador. He is a Federation ambassador. In fact, disgraced by the Klingons. The Klingons would definitely not have him back at this point. They call him the Butcher of Jagal.
Mhm.
And we have number one and Christina there, like, this guy's a Klingon. Like, what's going on? Christina, I called her. Lon. Lon. I'd rather
Yes.
call her Christina because I don't like the Lon character. I want them to rethink that.
What is she always calling out for?
The Gorn?
The Gorn.
Is it the Gorn?
Oh, she's gonna hate that. Like years from now, she's absolutely gonna hate that.
Yeah, oh yeah. But
Yeah.
we're gonna have to ask some deep questions during this review too, because there's a lot of deep discussion to be had
Yeah.
here. I'm not even gonna save this one for the end. I am gonna save it for the end. I'll come back with that question I got for you, Jaemeel. All right, so he comes on board, and they're all like, well, these two are looking at each other. They're a little skeptical, but they're not even the people who hate Klingons. But Ortega's is, so she's here mouthing off about Klingons on the bridge, basically. Um, what is he saying?
Or it's a long con to gain access to Federation secrets.
I love it.
Yeah.
Which is good. The paranoia that should be there, right, for the Klingons. Like Kirk wasn't in a bubble in terms of like disliking and hating Klingons, right?
And Kirk
The,
didn't fight in the Klingon War.
I exactly the was it the Kittimer was it Kittimer Accords,
Yeah,
right?
kidding.
Yeah, that didn't just come out of the blue because there was a little disagreement. This was like a
Mm.
blood feud. I got my mom's
Millions of casualties.
yes,
Millions. Like,
right.
that's pretty serious. Dennis May says this is the best of the new Star Trek series. I do agree, though I loves me some Lower Decks. But
The fact that
they're
we can
different
have,
things.
but the
Yeah,
fact that we can actually have a debate based on that, it's a good
true.
time to be a Star Trek fan.
Beautiful thing.
Good time.
And honestly, Prodigy's really good. And I'm sad that it's
Save Prodigy. Hashtag Save Prodigy.
it get watch if you haven't watched Prodigy, just what it'll be. You might lose a little bit of context, but just watch the last two episodes. It's as good as any. Like it's a 10 out of 10 Star Trek episode. Those last two episodes, it's solid. But yeah, so she's mouthing off a bit about Klingons because she doesn't much care for it.
Trust me, I know Klingons.
She knows Klingons, she says. So, and then
So you don't
That's not what
It's like you're trying to catch me there.
But she did catch her. She's like, yes, that
Yeah.
is why I don't trust him. But he's a Klingon, and I know Klingons. But like, yeah, I love
She,
Ortega's. She's a great character. But
and she's right though. Like
is
these are
she?
like
What?
well, I mean in the sense that she knows. When I always hear the phrase, you don't really know someone until uh, you're like standing across from them, and you have, they have your life versus your life, and you're at wits. Like you see a layer of a person that you've never seen before, and she's seen that face, right? That
Hmm.
specific face, right? But
And
of
she's seen
course,
the worst. If they might consider it the best, but the worst side of Klingons too, which is the
exactly,
bloodthirsty.
which is where she's basing her opinion from, and I can understand that, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
her might not have that same perspective, right?
No, especially Uhura, especially this Uhura, who I think
Yeah,
is the Uhura, because they've already given her more than Nacelle Nichols ever got. She's very optimistic and bright-eyed, and wants to see the best in everybody.
yeah.
So yeah, so she's still, saying some things, and and here we come with Oh, do I have that one? Oh, I didn't put that clip in. Anyway, so she's just like, they call him the Butcher of Jagal, and she walks in and she's just like, Captain on the bridge.
Captain on the bridge?
She's like, oh, and she just stands up. She's like, yes, sir. Haha. I was not saying anything about our ambassador here. And he's like, what a beautiful bridge you've got here. And he says, I don't mind admitting, your Federation ships are way better than our Klingon ships.
You can turn the light on.
On?
Yeah,
Why?
because it's hard. Sorry, I'll mute.
Hi.
Oh,
And then, so, oh, I didn't quite catch the image, but the best stink eye in the history of Star Trek is the stink eye that Pike gives Ortega's here when he's walking by. This is just the tail end of it here in this image. For old Boy
All this-
Scout friendly Pike is all of a sudden not so friendly.
the subtle things that they do and they capture. It's great.
Oh, he was like scarring her face up with that glare. Holy crap! Like, not good. She's gonna hear about that. I want to see that in the next episode too, where he's just like, just giving her the gears about that shit. But anyway, maybe not. So then we move on, and they're at a meeting, or not a meeting, but a greeting dinner for their ambassador. This often happens with ambassadors.
Yep.
And nice, again. I love the sets on this show. They're freaking gorgeous.
Retro, but still up to date.
Yeah.
Looks great, clear. Oh,
Yeah. You don't need bad lighting. You just need good sets.
I don't need it to be an Apple store.
No, or that. Everything's an Apple store these days in sci-fi.
Yeah.
So they come in and Spock's like, oh, I've done a little research in Klingons, and I have a caffeinated beverage from your world I would like to present to you. So, of course, he's making a little Rocktaccino.
Yes.
My captain, your captain, everybody's captain, Benjamin Sisko's favorite drink. Star Trek ruled. Yes, I agree, Dennis May. Deep Space Nine is the best of the Trek series. I also agree, Dennis May. I have a lot in common, Dennis May.
Well, who knows when Strange New Worlds finishes its mission, we could
Yeah,
be
well.
saying a different tune.
That's something. Wouldn't that be something? Like, it's got some work to do. If it does that kind of work, though, my God, we've got a beautiful ride ahead of us. If it's going to reach those pinnacles that Deep Space Nine. And it has with this episode. This episode, I give the same rating I give In the Pale Moonlight and Far Beyond the Stars, which are the two best episodes in the history of TV.
I think the most anticlimactic part of this episode will be our ratings.
Yeah, well, I already spoiled mine. I spoiled Jody's too. Jody gave it a 9.
Wait, just a 9? Jody?
It's Jody. What are you gonna get? Like, what would get a 10 out of Jody? Like, if you gave him $1 million, he'd be like 9.8.
I just want to hear where the deductions came from, Jody. If you ever get a
Yeah, I would.
chance.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I'm like, where did it fall down for you? But I don't know. This is so flawless. This episode, it's beautiful. I watched it twice, and I was just like loving every second of it. I'm probably gonna watch it again tonight. I loved it. Uh, so
But just
here we have.
the general uncomfortableness of like all the people in the like you just look at the background and just how like I keep on calling him the Butcher Jakal because that's name what comes up in my mind.
It's
But
Duck
just
Raw.
Dakra,
Duck Raw. Yeah, they just call him Raw, but it's
yeah.
Duck Raw.
Look how everyone Lan just uncomfortable, right?
And what does she
The
know? She
scenes
doesn't know
Pike.
anything about Klingons. I don't know why she's so uncomfortable. But well, she's a security officer. She should always be uncomfortable around Klingons.
I think she senses the general mood that's happening.
Yeah, that too. Pike certainly does. He's like, ugh. Like I asked like Mbenga and Chapel to show up for this dinner. Like maybe that was a bad. Well, he hasn't done that yet.
Yeah.
This is just the opening little greeting. So he presents him the replicated Raktajino, and Doc Ra burns himself on it because it was too hot, and Spock's like, ah, crap, I was trying to work out. But the interesting line there, actually, is like, learning about this drink makes me want to learn more about your world. And Doc Ra says to Spock, he's like, there's nothing to learn. They're a bloodthirsty, antiquated race, and there's, like, nothing for you there, basically. So,
It's a little,
yikes, harsh. I don't agree. I love Klingons. It's like, in Klingon culture, super fascinating. Like, they kill their own gods, man.
Ra's coming across as a little bit of an Uncle Tom there.
A bit, isn't he?
Yeah.
Isn't he? But that comes back to whether this is, if he's being genuine or not, which we'll ask.
Very true.
Here. But there's a lot happening. It's like every, well, not just every character, but like him and Mbenga and even Chapel are like so layered in their feelings and their actions, really, in this.
But even the minor interactions with even with Spock, right? Spock's trying to impress him, right, and trying to connect with him, and he's like, nope. what you not idolize but respected about what you with the Klingon race, just disregard that kind of thing, and you could see Spock's reaction to that kind of commentary. It was like once again, I like the minor.
Like, sorry, I breached a sensitive topic or a complicated topic. He's like, don't worry about it.
Pike dealing with his crew and their feelings about what Ra has brought. It's the minor things that are also very important because they can hit the A storyline, but the B storyline about how the crew is feeling in general and the mood of the crew, right? And number one coming in as we see later on, providing a little bit of a solution. It all seemingly pays off and moves the story along. Anyways, so
it does, and with Doc Ra specifically, every action he does in this episode could be taken at least two ways, and they write that so well. Like it doesn't come off as obvious. Oh, Jodie's piping up. Hey guys, Joey can't be there. You two are doing great. Oh, Jodie, we love you, and so does Uhura. Yeah, you want to talk to Uhura? Jaemeel, you're immortal now. I didn't know that. Who did you kill for that purpose? The other Highlander, I guess.
The other Highlander. Yeah. There could only be one.
There can only be one. I'm glad it's you, buddy.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. So, but yeah, so like for example, like Doc Ra, of all these people he meets, he like immediately zeroes in on Mbenga, and he doesn't really care about anybody else. He just wants to spend more time with Mbenga and get at Mbenga. But is that because the thing he presents to him later, where there's potential for them to work together, or is it for nefarious reasons, where it's just like he knows that he's a veteran of this war and was his enemy and wants to get back at him for that? Like, it's good stuff. So then they come into sick bay to treat this burn on his hand, which is nothing. It's a burn on his hand. Klingons slice the shit out of their hands all the time for like everything. It's just like, hey, want to have a cup of coffee? Yes, but we must first spill blood. Like,
But I think it's part of this show and dance that
It
Roz
is.
kind of, and he's like, "Oh, I burnt my hand. Let's go to sick bay and get that looked after." Yes, absolutely. That's a great idea.
Well, it was Pike's idea, but he
Yeah.
had definitely got
Well, that's what I mean. He's like, "Oh, that's a great
yeah,
idea."
yeah. And then like this look, like I only got like maybe two shots of it there, maybe, but that's a like a 10-second glare that they show of Mbenga staring, and it's he goes through so many different. This the actor. I don't know where they found this guy. I've never seen him in anything else. God damn, he's good. Babs, you're the man. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
man. He just the silent acting here. And look at Chapel looking at him like this is all amazing stuff. And they treat his hand, and look at that. He's like he feels physical pain. He like collapses from like the grief and the overwhelming emotion that he's feeling on seeing the butcher of Jaga. Well, to be determined. And look at that. Look at that emotion. Amazing.
Oh, jeez. I'm looking at his I'm looking at
Who Babs?
yeah, and I'm
What's
like,
he been on?
he did an episode of Black Mirror.
Okay.
He was in was it Roots? Not the newer Roots, mind you.
Yeah, they
He
did.
did a
Yeah.
lot of procedurals like, NYC 22, Blue Bloods, Life on Mars, Law and Order, The Unit. Both Law and Orders, mind you. And then even movies, it's like small performance. Like he's a photographer. You know.
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Oh man, he needs some bigger roles because he's phenomenal.
yeah.
Make it happen, Hollywood, if you ever like start paying people and make movies again. Um,
Independent movies, swap up and get this man into your
yeah,
production. He'll knock it out of the
yep,
park.
yeah, he would. I'd love to see him in a lot of different roles just to see what he would do with it because he's very unique. And so this now we cut to Chapel. It says, and I love how they leave it vague so as not to complicate or step over canon. They're just like a few years earlier. They don't tell you how many, so you have to go
The
number
date isn't
crunching.
important. What
It's not.
happens, how the
Yeah.
people interact in that time period. Mm,
So Chapel's getting beamed down to Jagal during the Klingon War, and we meet a great character played by a great regular Star Trek character actor. We love him. We love him. Clint Howard.
yes.
And this is one of the best roles he's gotten. I know. Again, this everything is so deliberate in the performances in this. So he's playing this character who he even walks with a limp. Like he's a war veteran. He's even taken damage, and he chooses to rather than be down on that. Like you see how everyone in, for example, the siege of AR 558 in Deep Space Nine, where all those veterans are just down on themselves, down on each other, down on the situation. They're just like they've had enough of it. But he probably feels that way, but he chooses to be this kind of upbeat, kind of positive character in the face of that. And like that's a deliberate choice by the actor, but also the character.
Yes.
And
Positive and a realist. He's like, look,
yeah,
I got to do what I got to do to get you here. I traded
yeah,
that, was it barrel of Romulan ale?
yeah, yeah. Cost them a barrel of Romulan ale to get her there because they had no experienced nurses left.
Yeah.
And he also says he's just like, look, if you need something, we probably don't got it, but ask me anyway, and I'll fire it up the flagpole and see if it squeaks or whatever. Like it's pretty great. But one thing I will say about this show, and well, no, I'm saving that comment for later. Oh god, I'm almost dropping spoilers all through this. But so then he's like, "This
Review
is Tent City."
spoilers.
We have review spoilers, I know, but still, it's like there's a dramatic element we can add to our review. Uh, and so she's like, and also he's like, also check in with Joseph. I'm the chief medical officer, but Joseph does a lot around here. He says. And then a bunch of victims get beamed in, which is what keeps happening. It's just like it keeps announcing it too. It's all very creepy. It's just like
Yeah.
beam in, imminent or whatever it says. Beam in, and it's like they keep beaming in because it's awful. Like some people, their guts are spilling out, and some like intro to Saving Private Ryan stuff going on here.
But it's also educating us on the language of trauma that these characters are dealing with, right? And later on, I wouldn't be surprised if later on in this season or next season, when you start seeing these characters be emotionally troubled by a situation, and you start hearing that in the background, we are educated to know exactly what are they revisiting with their PTSD.
Well, yeah, and another thing I think phrase that's shared between Chapel and Mbenga in this episode that we'll hear again, I'm certain, is "We got this."
Yeah.
That's coming back. We'll hear that again.
Yep.
So there she meets Joseph for the first time, Joseph Mbenga, and like, oh, he's such a complicated character. So he's a numbers guy though as a doctor, but the reason why, and it all makes so much sense. His character is just beautifully designed. So because he was a soldier first, and a friggin' good one too. Like he holds
Yeah.
the record for kills, and he's just like, but that's not who I am. I want to heal people and try to make up for the red in my ledger. If you want a Black Widow quote there. Um,
Very loosely, very loosely. Let's not go down that path right now.
okay, that's
Current
fine.
state of affairs.
We get an MMS to do soon.
Oh, folks, that's not going to be a kind one. So just look forward to that.
I'll be the kind word
Oh,
in that review.
I can already foresee Dave is going to. He's going to
Oh,
have his
it's not
knives
gonna.
out. Oh,
Yeah, he is. Um, so tune in. That'll be a fun show.
yeah.
So this is I forget its name now. I keep thinking avocado. It's not avocado.
Well, I think
But
Alvarado.
something like that. It
Yeah.
starts with an A. Um, so his guts are spilling out. It's not looking good. And this again, nod back to previous Strange New Worlds where he was hiding his daughter in the transporter buffer. He was doing this on Chagall years before,
Hmm.
where the worst ones, he's just like, we can hide them in the buffer, which he doesn't add for as long as we can, which is definitely what he's thinking, but he doesn't
Yeah.
tell Chapel that part. He's like, we hide them in the buffer. I do it all the time for the worst ones, because she's just like, because she's like, he's like damage to every major organ, everything. She's like, oh well, let's get him into the regenerator. Gotta love that 24th century technology, or 23rd here,
Yeah.
but
Nope.
they don't have one.
Don't have
So
one.
no, but she's like, but there's a ship coming to drop off reinforcements and new personnel, and it will have one. So he's like, all right, we'll hide him in the buffer and then see how it goes. But he's always got a plan. He's really good on his feet. But again, he mixes soldier and doctor so well. He takes like the
Hmm.
best traits of both of those professions and molds them together. Oh man, this is such good stuff.
Yeah.
So that happens, and then we're back on back in present day, and Pike comes in to talk to Mbenga. He's like, "Yeah, man, I know you were on Jagal, but can you still come to the dinner with the butcher of Jagal?" It really mean a lot. Really mean a lot. And can I have some of your Delton parsley, please?
Which Pike was asking. I think he was asking way too much.
I think so too. Especially all of them. You want all of them there. You're just gonna bring all the trauma victims in to face
But at
their
at
demons.
this at the same time, you know that this was probably what Raw was wanted in the first place.
Yeah. And also what every Starfleet captain seems to do. Like Picard did that all the time to Worf.
Hmm.
Just like, hey, I know this Klingon hates you and you hate this Klingon, but come to this dinner with this Klingon. Like, it happened all the time. Like captains just expect you to be there. If you're senior staff, you're going to the ambassador dinner, or you're
Yeah.
like it's, and you're
I
expected
guess
to.
could be considered a slight
And
if you don't.
if he didn't,
Yeah.
it's like, where's your senior staff? It's just like, yeah, well, half of them hate you. They didn't show up. Yeah. Oh boy. So he gets the Delta parsley. Be careful; it's like poisonous in big amounts. He's just like, but in small amounts, it's delicious. So he leaves, but he's like, and Chapel was there listening. So he's like, I'll be there. And as for Chapel, she's right there. She's like, I'll be there too. I kind of thought one of them was gonna skip it, but we get to that with Ortega's here, where she's having some conflict about it here in a second.
Great.
So those two are like, what are we doing? And he's just like, Chris needs us. That's what we're doing.
Not
And
even,
I love
not
how
even
they
the
all call him
captain.
Chris. Like,
Not even the
they call him-
captain. Chris.
Yeah. Well, and Becca says to Pike later, it's like, how long have we known each other? And Pike's just like, too long to count. So it's like, they must have known each other long before the war, everything. Maybe they went to the academy together. They
What was
seem
Pike doing
similar
to war?
age. Pike? Well, like the flagship usually doesn't get sent into the war. Even like during the Dominion War, everyone's always just like, well, where was the Enterprise? It was on the Gorn border trying to get the Gorn to come into the war. Like the flagship doesn't go to the fighting. So he would have been off, who knows, exploring, making diplomatic deals with people they want to help them, moving ambassadors around, putting out peace feelers, that kind of stuff. And he also would have been too high of rank at that point to have been like made to be a ground trooper or anything like
Yeah.
that. You know.
Yeah.
They've got some cannon fodder in Starfleet. They don't talk about that, but we'll get to that here in this episode too. So they're all like, "Yeah, it's crazy," and now flash back to Jagal, and this soldier is having a rough time. He's dying. He's like, tells Chapel he's gonna have to massage his heart with the hands, old school.
Yeah.
She's like, okay. And it works. They get his heart going again. But man, traumatic stuff. Like even they're like to be a soldier in a war is traumatic, but so is being a medic and having to see all the results of all the horribleness and try to fix it. And like it's a different kind of trauma, but it's no less severe.
Very true. And I've been fortunate to work with individuals who have served as medics in a variety of wars, and the stories that you would hear, right? Like when people talk, oh well, you're a medic. Medic is in the thick of it, just as much
Oh, it
so,
is.
right? And they see as much or even more death come their way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
I've heard
that
stories,
stays with the people. That stays with someone.
even just search and rescue type stuff. Like I heard
Yeah.
people after the big hurricane in Haiti, they sent out a lot of Canadian ships, and like I heard the stories of like just pulling bodies out of the water. That's freaking traumatic. Like, how
Yeah.
many dead bodies do you pull out of the water before that gets to your psyche? You know.
Well,
But,
so Matt, if you're out there, I was listening. I thought of you during this episode a lot, actually, a lot. So, hope you're doing well, Matt.
well said. Ditto. And anyone who's a medic in these traumatic places, man, we respect. Yeah. So then here's Ortega's waiting outside the door, just kind of doing a little dance. not ready to go in. And Vega's just like, yeah, I know, you don't want to go in there either. But she's taking it worse. Like, she hates Dakra. I mean, so does Mbenga and Chapel. We come to find out the depth of their hate. But Ortega's isn't hiding it at all, and she can't deal with it. She's just like, no, I'm not going to go in there. I'll flip my shit. Like, it's not going to be good. And Mbenga's like, well, Pike's making jambalaya with Delta parsley. She's like, oh, jambalaya. Damn. And Pike's a good cook, so.
Yeah, which is I love that they differentiate between the replicated food and the like actually made food that like his actual like his quarters are a kitchen.
Yeah, man.
Right?
Oh, there is a
Makes it.
difference. I'll tell you, there's a difference between produce grown in your own garden and produce at the grocery store. That's not what vegetables taste like, but that's stuff you get at the grocery store.
I know.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a difference in food, definitely. Like I'm 100% on that side. Replicated food would not be for me. Or synthahol. I'm drinking a single malt from the Highlands right now. I don't want no synthahol. But
My room does have a collection of beverages ready and available. After this, I will be partaking.
partake, partake. It's your birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
So there's the
Ooh.
jambalaya, looking delicious. I'm not a shrimp guy, but still looks well cooked.
I like the corn right beside it, though.
Yeah, oh yeah, very good. Barbecued corn. Man, that's what. Well, I'm more of a barbecue corn inside the husk myself.
Oh, okay. Ooh.
That was barbecued corn out outside. You ever barbecued corn in the husk?
I have.
Yeah, it keeps all that flavor in there. But so then they're all coming in. Here's the dinner time. I love that. I don't know what cousin Dave would think, but that seems like a very fine, formal dress that Pike has on there.
Yeah. I love the costuming for this show.
Yeah. And so they're nervous, like she's gonna shatter that glass in her hand with the tension she's feeling, and Spock wants to do something about that, so he tries to break the tension. And Uhura's good at that too. She's like, "Is it true all the ambassadorial meetings and have to have a barrel of blood wine?" He's just like, "Look, peace is not about the destination; it's about the
The
journey."
journey.
Yeah. He's really good. So Spock, what does Spock say to him? I forget what Spock says to him.
He compares Klingon literature to the art of
Oh,
war.
right, and yes, and also the peace writings of the Enar,
Yeah.
which is a nice callback to Enterprise because they totally are pacifists and nonviolent. Which is why they were so shocked that one of their number was not particularly well. Anyway, save that for the Enterprise at 8. That's coming. So then he's pouring a drink in Benga, and Chapel's like, "Can I have one?" He's like, "Mine's a double." I think that's a good idea.
She's like, she's like, can I have the same but double it? It's like mine's already a double. It's like, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, exactly. So quadruple me, please. So then they
Uh,
flash back to this gut wrenching stuff here. So he's talking. Well, this one's kind of a little more lighthearted. He's just talking about the guy where he's from. He's like, "Oh, you're from Terra Luna," and again another callback to a Deep Space Nine episode. He's like, "No, we just call it the moon.
yeah,
Everyone from the moon just calls it the moon, but everyone from Earth calls it Luna or Terra Luna or something lame. It's the moon."
yeah.
But you got Tycho City up there, lots of nice places. So he's trying to bring the guy's spirits up. He's trying to crack a little wise and bring the buddies. And then we got this guy. Okay, so we
Yeah.
have our Black Ops Andorian here, and he wants Mbenga because Mbenga does have that notorious reputation as a high kill soldier. And Mbenga's like, "I don't do that anymore. I am a doctor. I don't want to hurt people anymore. I want to heal people." And Sordorian's just like, "Yeah, but I could really use you on this one." He's like, "Starfleet really sent you down here?" He's like, "No, they told me you'd not help me, but I'm coming here anyway." But so but Mbenga's like, "No, not doing it." So then he's just like, Andorian's like, "I want some of your juice. I know you got some of
Yes,
that
the
juice."
juice.
The Protocol 12, they call it. But it's like we've seen Mbenga use it already in this series. The juice.
Yeah.
And Chapel knows about the juice. Yeah. But no, he won't even give him the juice.
The health
So
effects.
he just doesn't want to, the health effects, and he doesn't want to help with more killing. He's like, if I give you guys this shit, you're going to go kill like 4 dozen people. Like, so that doesn't happen. And then back to present day on the at the party, and everyone's getting uncomfortable.
And the
Grant's
tension
gripping his.
just ramping up.
Oh man, it really is. And then basically Ortega's can't take it no more. She's like, "So is it true? Did you kill all your men? Like you suck. We hate you." And then she just has to get up and leave. She's like, "All right, I'm out of here. I can't take it. You suck. Bye." And then he sends Chapel and like Una, I think, to go talk to her. And then Mbenga's like, I don't want to be here with you anymore either. I will say they have forgotten to make how to make good Klingons. I don't like his forehead. I don't like it how it goes all the way back behind his head. They've forgotten how to make their simple design of the Klingon forehead. They've forgotten how to do it. Everyone wants to be too clever.
That's your 10.5. Now it's a 10.5.
No, no, it's still an 11 because his performance is fantastic as that Klingon, but I don't like the forehead.
Mm-hmm.
Even Tiffany was watching it with me. She just looks up while she was doing something else. She's like, "That looks plastic." I'm like, "Yep,
Yeah,
it sure does."
it does.
Yep, they've forgotten how to make Klingons, and they don't have Michael Westmore working for them anymore. There's a bit
Hire
of a
him
step
back.
down there. Yep, hire him back. So he leaves, but he grabs Mbenga's arm, which bold, considering the tension between the two. And it just says, "I hear you're doing full contact Mokbara. I would love to have a match with you," which is Klingon judo.
Yeah. Which was previously we saw earlier this season, I believe.
Yep, and Worf does it all the time.
Yeah.
And then boom, back here, and this guy's he's up, and he's just like, "How do you feel?" And he's like, "Feels like somebody grabbed my heart and squeezed it with their fingers." He's like, "Well, funny thing, somebody did." He's like, "Oh, okay." Funny about that. That's an apt description, young lad. Uh, but it's the kid's like, "I didn't join Starfleet for this. I joined for the exploration and learning. Like, I didn't want to just kill people. That's not
Yeah.
what I did." And he's like, he's done with it. He's like, "I don't understand how we can't solve this situation without all the killing and the death." And he's like, and Benga's just a realist. He's like, "We have to fight." He's
Yeah.
like, "The Klingons aren't going to stop fighting. If we stop fighting, the Klingons aren't going to go back to Konos. So we have to fight so the people we love are safe and don't have to fight." And he's like, he grabs him and he goes, "And that is Starfleet." Though, I think that's more of a description of like the military side of Starfleet, but certainly an apt description for that.
I think he's describing Starfleet in persevering in war, not
Doing what it
necessarily
takes.
what. Yeah,
And for the right reasons.
for the right
We're
reasons,
we're
not
doing it
just
for our family, not for
yeah,
conquering territory.
yeah.
Yeah,
Might as well be the Terran Empire then, if that's the case.
yeah.
So, and I think also at the time he didn't have the complete answer to it. So just because a character says something years ago doesn't necessarily mean that he has the complete answer at this time,
He's
right?
struggling with it.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the context he's put his life in this war in.
Yep. And again, he's coming from that soldier perspective too. Um, so then here's Andorian guy. He's getting ready to go out on a mission, and Chapel explains the mission to Mbenga, where they're gonna go and try to cut the head off the snake. They're going after Doc Ra, but they need a distraction, which of course is the cannon fodder. They're gonna send in all the young ensigns to die as the distraction, including the guy they just massaged back, whose heart they massaged
Yeah.
back to life. It's just like, and Banga doesn't like that, so he sees the guy and he's like, "Dude, like this is a suicide run. I can give you medical leave here. Like, let's just do it." He's like, "No, man, I was just weak and tired, and it was the medications. I'm a soldier," and like, which is heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because where he was at before, he's like, "I'm not a soldier. I'm an explorer and a student." And now he's just like, "No, I'm a soldier. This is what I do, Doc." And, you
And
know,
I think this is part of Mbega also taking what he just said and learning that no, that isn't just Starfleet. What I just said isn't just Starfleet. right?
Yeah,
He's
yes. He
he's learning
regrets
that
his
lesson.
words.
Yeah,
Yeah. He's like, no, Starfleet is now making you do a suicide run. He's like, and that seemed to surprise him. Like when Chapel's telling it to him, he's like, what? Like, and so like desperate tactics from Starfleet. If even a former soldier like Mbenga is surprised by it. Um, but the soldier goes ahead, and he's just like, well, stay low, fight hard. And the fight hard thing keeps coming back for Mbenga in this episode. Who fights the hardest? So now these two are having a chat, and Spock and Chapel about the little interaction. Spock sticking
no
up for her.
shortcuts, no shortcuts with this conversation, because it
Nope.
could have ended a multitude of ways where it's like, okay, you just want some space. It's like, no, they actually delved into, like, what is she asking from him not
Mm-hmm.
understanding what she wants, him interpreting what she wants from how she answers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know the situation continues on. It isn't resolved, but
Mm-hmm.
it seems like a real interaction.
Yeah, she's like, you feel responsible for my actions due to our closeness, but like, she's like, that's not the case. Like, I'm gonna be a bit of a hot mess here for until this Klingon's off the ship. So just like, kind of back off from that. He's
Yeah.
like, you want space away from me? She's like, I'm like, that's kind of like a hard take on what I was saying, but like,
Yeah.
so he just walks away. She's like, all right, fine, Vulcan, time away.
Yeah. And then then Dave says next episode when Spock kisses someone, we were on a break.
We were on a break. It's true. Him and T'Pring were on a break.
Yeah.
So now back to Jagal, and they're
The waves of
bringing.
people
There's
coming
more.
back.
Yeah, from that the waves of the cannon fodder are coming back. So like we got to beam them in, and we got to hide some in the buffers because we have so many coming in. And they're like, "Well, just clear the buffers." And they're like, "Ah, no, that's cool, no problem." And then Chapel realizes, "Oh crap, old avocado is still in there." And,
I love it.
um, and she's like, "Well, we can't do it. He's still in there." And then Becca just boop, no thought,
You just
no hesitation. He's like, "We." She's like, "What are you doing?" He's just like, "We saved lives." He's a numbers guy, 100%. As a doctor, as a soldier, he's just like, if we can trade one life for 5, we're doing it every time. We're not hesitating. We're saving those 5 lives. That's a +4. We just pulled off a +4. Like,
and it's
so
not
that's
like
harsh. It's hard
malicious.
for no,
It's
no. I
being
mean,
realistic.
most other Star Trek doctors that we've seen would get there, but they would struggle with it first. But
He's
no
just been in the thick
hesitation.
of things, and he understands that,
Yeah,
unfortunately, like, I cannot do as much as I can, and I'm doing a disservice in the grand scheme of things. He will mourn, he will feel sad,
yeah.
but he also knows that he has to do what he has to do.
Oh my god, he's such a good character. A top 5 Star Trek character for me already. I freaking love Mbenga. And this Klingon, I really love him too. So here's their Makbara match. And I don't know what Mbenga was thinking, why he thought he could actually. He's just like, you sure you can handle this, Doc Ra? Full contact? It's like, dude, you're fighting a Klingon in Klingon judo. I don't know how good you think you are, but you're not that good. And he just gets tossed around. It's like,
Yeah.
Mbenga doesn't do too well at first, anyway. And but it's interesting the conversation they're having.
They're not just sparring physically,
No,
obviously.
Doc Ross like we can work together. Like we were enemies on the battlefield. Imagine how powerful it would be if people see us join together for peace. And Benga just he knows he's lying, and Benga knows he's the only one who knows. Well, maybe Chapel does. He and Chapel are the only ones who know that Doc Ross is full of shit. At least about one thing that he says. And so, and Benga gets up and he's just like, "So you really killed your men?" And Doc Ross is just like, "Yeah, well, I had to. I didn't approve of their tactics in war and all this stuff.
Who was the one that fought the hardest was the
Yeah,
question
so it's just
that
like who
really
fought the
set things up.
hardest. Yeah, who
Yes.
fought the hardest? So he has to like scramble to make up an answer for that. Because he knows, Mbenga knows the answer to who fought the hardest. So they have that conversation, and they fight some more, and Mbenga's really gonna pop him one there. There it is. He gets the better of him, but he doesn't. And he's like, I don't want to work with you, basically. He's just like, you ask a lot of me. He's like, yeah, but I'm here to help. I'm here to help you, Mbenga. I'm here to heal and all that kind of stuff. So he's like, I look forward to our next match. Moving on. Did I miss anything important in that conversation?
No, you got it. Was
Okay. So,
thirst trap for all the ladies there.
yep, exactly. Hey, nothing wrong with Mbenga. All right. So, here we are back on Jagal. And, well, yeah, well, look, even the Andorian came back in a body bag. So,
Yeah.
not just the cannon fodder, but the strike team didn't do any better. So, then that's when Mbenga's is like, well, I guess I'm going to have to go and try to save as much of the cannon fodder as I can. Takes his juice. And even see, this is where Chapel also feels guilty. Like, Mbenga does all the killing, but Chapel shares that guilt with him because she told him to do that. She's just like,
Yeah.
if you find Jagal, or not Jagal, Dakra, make him pay, she says. So she's telling him to go commit murder.
Yep.
So she feels some responsibility for that murder. Not that he did get hold of Dakra, but the rest of it. She was still all in on that violence. So those two were trying to figure out what's going on.
You find a shortcut.
Yeah, yeah. They find a shortcut. Look, we can get that Klingon off the ship like 12 hours earlier. He's like, yeah, but go through a nebula, and like then she convinces him. She's like, look, everyone's on edge. We just need to get this Klingon off the friggin' ship. He's like, all right, fine, go through the nebula. We'll get there early.
Which is the right choice. It's the right choice.
100% the right choice. They didn't get there fast enough, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Needed a better nebula. Maybe the Mutara Nebula. That's a good one. So then this is where she's telling them, take the juice, go kill people. Protocol 12, which he invented. So that's why they're like, they come to him for it. He's like, I don't have any, but it's like, but yeah, but can't you just make more? You invented it. He's just like, well, yeah, but I won't. So there's none. But he did have some, and he always has some. We come to realize in the previous Strange New Worlds, he always has some.
Which is such an interesting character, like addition that you wouldn't know. That's later revealed. It's great.
He won't leave himself without all his options because he's seen the worst case scenario. He's like, the worst case scenario can happen, and then maybe I need to be able to fight 20 Klingons. But so. This is the craziest scene in the whole show. One of the craziest scenes in the history of Star Trek, I think. This, okay. So, Mbenga. Okay, here's where it gets complicated. This is the scene that complicates everything, and we're gonna have to talk about what we think happens here. So, Dakra comes in, and he just won't leave Mbenga alone. He's just like, dude, let's work together. I know we can do it. And he's even begging him. He's like, please just leave me alone. I know if I spend 5 more minutes in your company, I will kill you. So please just go away. That's how I take it anyway. Like,
I think it's a fair description.
Like he even pre-opened his knife box. Like he has the knife ready. So he's begging him. He's just like, but I'm here to heal, and like we're both victims of Jagal, and that's where he's just begging. It's like, no. He's like, you don't get to call yourself a victim. He's like, did you make the order? Because apparently there was an order on Jagal that anyone who's not a Klingon soldier is an enemy. So the
Yep.
Klingon soldiers would go around. They were killing civilians. They were killing Klingon civilians. They were killing Klingon children. They literally started just killing everybody. So he's like, "Did you give that order?" And Dakara's like, "Yes, I did." So that's when I think Mbenga decided that he is going to kill Dakra in this room. Now
He got
how
that
do you feel about that?
confirmation. Before it was
Yep.
speculated. Now it's the confirmation.
Yep. And he's just like, that's it. I'm gonna do one last act as a soldier and then go back to doctoring again. It's crazy stuff. So then we've been seeing these flashes of the fights between the Klingons, and we just assumed it was Dakra fighting his subordinates to get out. But it's actually Mbenga, and the Butcher of Jagal is in fact Dr. Mbenga. So that's why he asked him again. He's like, "Who fought the hardest?" He's like, "I'll tell you who fought the hardest. It was Raoul or something like that." No, Raoul was Dakra's father, I believe.
Yeah.
But he's like, "I'll tell you why, because he gave me trouble and he covered for you so you could get away." He's just like, "I am the Butcher of Jagal." And he's like, "So just leave me alone." And he opens the knife box again. And there it is. That's the very knife that he killed all of the subordinates. That's the Butcher of Jagal's knife. Which again, so this is, again, I feel like this is premeditated by Mbenga. He knows everybody thinks Dakra is the Butcher of Jagal. So if they do tests on this knife later, it's going to have the blood of the previous victims on it, the DNA at least. And they will just pin that as a confirmation that the Butcher of Jagal is still killing, still with the same knife. And that he brought it into the medical bay because it's his knife, when in fact it was not. And Mbenga brought the knife into the situation. He brought the knife to the conversation. So there's a struggle. You see it, like you can see they're like where they add a little mud to the water is that Dakra is being overly persistent. Like he's just like, what can Mbenga do? He begged you to go away. He's now physically pushing you away. He's like, go away, get away from me. But like, did he want him to? Did he want this to happen so he could kill him? Like, we're gonna talk about that in a minute. So there's the knife in the chest, and then there's Chapel after the fact saying she saw the whole thing, and that Dakra just wanted to make peace with Mbenga, but then Mbenga had had enough and was just telling him to go away, and that she says that Dakra was just persisting, and that's when it became. And then she says, "Well, look, it's obviously the Butcher of Jagal's knife because there's the DNA analysis. So clearly, you don't know what's Dakra, though he seemed reformed, was planning on killing Mbenga this whole time, or at least premeditated."
That's the implied, yeah.
That's what she implies. So then, but Pike's a smart guy. He's like, I don't know about all that. So he walks into Mbenga, and this is another one of my favorite conversations.
Great scene.
Oh, so good. Because, like, he's right about Pike is a bit naive, or a bit of an optimist, maybe.
He has the luxury of such.
Where he's like, I didn't start the fight, Chris. And he's just like, but what if I told you that Dakra murdered children, not his men, but that he did it? What if I started the fight then? Would it be so bad? And Pike's like, well, that's what we have tribunals for. Like, who are you to decide who gets redemption and who doesn't? Which is a great Star Trek question. Where's the cutoff line of who deserves redemption and who doesn't? I know what that is for me, and I'm with Mbenga on this one. I am with Mbenga where
I figured so.
I also don't have the luxury of. Look, there are people who don't deserve redemption, and they are people who harm children. They can rot in hell and get what Mbenga is bringing them. But where the line really is, I don't know. But that's the other side of the line. If you mess with kids, then there's no redemption for you. So Mbenga's just like, Chris is just like, look, man, like that's just not how we roll. We can't do that. Like Starfleet believes in second chances for everybody. And that's when Becca's just like, no, not everybody, not everybody. No, man. And he's just like, but I told you, I didn't start the fight. But then he just whispers, but I'm glad he's dead. And that's
Yeah.
like that delivery was chilling. That's where he says it right there. I'm glad he's dead. And Pike's just like, well,
Yep.
okay. I mean, I guess I kind of think that you killed him now, but what am I supposed to do with that information? Like, Pike's in a bad spot now. Like, what is he
Yeah.
supposed to do here?
He has to go and talk to Starfleet about how his
He's
ambassador.
always has to talk to Starfleet. His job sucks, man. His is just like covering for his crew with the admirals is like his main job.
It's like,
So then he
wait,
puts his
first
knife
number
away.
one, now you're chief medical officer. It's like,
Yeah,
geez, Chris, what's going on?
yeah. Well, that's the episode. A sheer work of brilliance in writing and acting. What do you think, Jaemeel? Did he do it? Well, here's the first question I have for you,
Okay,
Jaemeel.
because
Was Dokra reformed? To me, that's the hardest question to
I
answer.
I
This
I
episode.
think what the question that they brought up, or the scenario that they brought up, that Mbega brought up, is
Does
even
it
if he's
matter? That's what
pretending,
Mbengo would say.
yeah, even if he's
Yeah.
pretending to, sometimes if you pretend so much, you believe and start acting in
Yeah.
what you're pretending to be. So
Yeah. You think he faked it till he made it?
I, it was just another escape.
Well, I think it's almost like a survival tactic too. It's like he says to Mbenga, he's just like, Starfleet found me at my lowest point, and I now need Starfleet, and it needs me. It's like he has nowhere to go, so
Yep.
it's like I can keep playing this ambassador role and not get sent back to the Klingons, or I can get sent back to the Klingons. So it's like, is he reformed? I don't know, but would he play the role anyway?
We
Maybe.
can we can never know for sure because he was never
Yeah.
given an option of a free kind of decision to be made. We've never presented with that, so we can only assume that um, possibly. We can never know for sure.
Yeah. And he's such a like a subtle performance and nuanced performance in that. It's just like I don't know. That's the question I can't really answer. But as far as the Mbenga ones, I'm going to ask you. But did Mbenga plan to murder General Dakra, son of Raoul?
No, I will say no.
Then I ask you, what's with the knife?
I feel like so we have to believe what we're presented on the episode as to be what exactly happened without the vague sequences that is during the struggle. And what
That
we're
doesn't tell us
presented,
anything. Yeah.
yeah, what we're presented is Mbega in sick bay, looking through his items that included the knife. That was before Ra walked in. Did he
Mm,
know that Ra was coming to him?
true. No, he didn't.
Right? Or we
Mm,
can assume that he didn't
he
know.
didn't. Yeah. Why would
He,
he?
yeah,
Yeah.
right. Um, so premeditated, not necessarily. Now, during the course of this conversation, when tensions got high, decision could have been made.
Once
Right?
he asked you, did you make that order? Did you
Yes.
put
And the
the
die was
order?
kind of cast. And
Yeah.
that would go into a crime of passion, not
Hmm.
necessarily
Yeah.
one of logic and premeditation.
I you know what, I agree with you, especially since the fact that he begged him to leave. He's just like,
Yes.
please leave my sick bay. Like,
Yes.
yeah, I agree. Like I
He,
think it's what
he
he said, Chris. He's like, I'm glad he's dead, but I didn't start it. But
which
he start it? No, he didn't start it because he begged him to leave, and Docker
yes,
wouldn't go away. That was
correct.
the first real aggression. Just like, no, I'm going to keep confronting you.
Well, Ra's aggression began during the sparring,
Yeah,
because even during so, he made it known that this is the reason his focus is, I'm going to be working on you, Mbenga, so that we can work together,
yeah.
right?
It's like I'm here to
So
heal you, Mbenga. And he puts his hand on his shoulder, and that's when it all goes to blank, and you can't see their struggle. Like he
yeah,
just puts his hand. I'm like, don't touch him! Like, don't touch him!
yeah,
So yeah, yeah.
okay.
So
So
fantastic episode.
fantastic episode. I will add, because you did mention in terms of
Yep,
redemption and who's
yep,
deserving of it.
yes.
So I have a different perspective on the matter, and I can
Okay.
understand yours in terms
Mm-hmm.
of individuals who harm children
Mm-hmm.
aren't deserving of such.
Agreed. Well, that's what I
I
would agree with my own statement. Yes.
I believe, from a third party perspective, that we shouldn't take that, or shouldn't allow individuals who are the victims of such violence to make said decision, because their decision making is somewhat clouded, right?
Oh, I agree with that. It's us as the cold-hearted jury or the cold-minded jury after the fact that say they can't be redeemed.
I believe
Like
that,
that's a
yes,
logical decision.
yeah.
Like I don't know.
I
I think
believe
there's a logic to that. But
I believe that everyone should have an opportunity of redemption, right? Have the opportunity.
yeah,
Now,
well,
so let me clarify,
mm-hmm.
okay? As someone who's felt very passionate about those who have wronged me or those who I've cared about, right? The rage I have felt towards that person, I can recognize that I cannot properly assess their punishment from a logic perspective because I am so emotionally involved in it, right? And
That's why we're supposed to have impartial juries.
very true, which is why I know that I should never be put in charge in that position, especially if I'm that close to it, right? And I like taking that perspective when it comes to it, rather than me thinking, "Oh my gosh, I just can't imagine like
But here, okay,
someone who could hurt a child, right? And forgiving that individual."
let me rebut. So, who is the impartial jury that is impartial about someone harming a child? And do you want a jury of those people?
So understand, I'm not saying that the jury would be not passionate or sympathetic or
But I
have their
almost think
own.
that's like, is that not the cutoff line of like what's redeemable and what isn't? It's just like if it's impossible to find an impartial jury because the crime is so heinous, is that not the line? Like, I don't know. It's all
But I,
philosophical stuff,
yes,
but
I also feel that our prison and punishments, our system is built on punishment and not
mhm.
necessarily on redemption and um, creating individuals who will become contributing members of society. So jail
And
isn't necessary.
Starfleet takes that approach. Like Starfleet,
Yeah,
it's always joked about how they have their cushy little resort prisons, and then you get out because they're all about the rehabilitation and not the punishment.
yeah. I feel like rehabilitation is more of currently based on the individual actually rehabilitating themselves as opposed to the system, because the system isn't really built to do that. It's built to punish and to make money off of those in the prison the
There
prison
is an
system,
industrial
unfortunately.
complex there. Yeah.
Yes. So I understand your perspective, and it absolutely does make sense, because why are we putting people who are willing to do such a heinous act through a system that is not going to rehabilitate them, and then in 10 years they're going to be out, possibly do the exact same thing or worse, right? So
Like, and there's
what?
like even a gray area on what. Like, I agree. Like, you can give everyone the opportunity, a sort of an opportunity to atone somehow. Like, say you have someone who I would call irredeemable, but say they're in prison forever and they know they're not getting out, but they're like, hey, I just want to give blood every week to save lives. Like, do I think you should deny the person that opportunity? No. Let them do that. Maybe they feel like to themselves they're atoning. But to everybody else, still not enough. Still not
So
enough.
I think redemption isn't
Maybe it's not an
asking.
accurate enough word. Yeah.
Redemption isn't something that's going to be, that grace isn't going to be necessarily given to all who commit a crime. You can seek redemption, right? But you might not be granted said redemption from the victims, especially. Nor
Mm-hmm.
should you
Or
demand that it
society at
happen.
large, necessarily.
Very true
Mm-hmm.
as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's just a philosophical take that we went on it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good when, once again, Star Trek puts forth these ideas and these questions that we have to ask amongst ourselves and each other. So
Look, I knew we were going to get deep in this review, but this episode will be talked about at length on Locutors of Trek, where we love to get deep into the weeds. So this was like a little slice of Locutors of Trek here, everybody.
yeah.
This
So
is
if
what
you
we
like
do over
that,
here.
please,
Yeah,
please,
indeed,
okay.
indeed.
Um,
So give it your rating. Let's get it. Let's get
this is
it.
getting a 10. It's getting a 10, folks.
All
There's
right.
no spoiler. It's 10.
Not an 11? Not an 11? All right.
Not an
All right.
11. Not an 11.
Okay. I'm
So
going with
um,
11 to cancel out Jody's 9.
Diesel Scientist gets a 9.5. This is on a different level, folks. This is a 10.
Oh, yeah. To me, I gave Ad Astrum per Aspera a 10. And so I had to go 11 because I liked this one so much more than that. And that one was a 10. That one was a legit 10. I'm
Yeah.
not going to demote it, but this one was a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was.
It was the one after that that was a bit of a downgrade. The memory one.
Oh, yeah. I think I gave
Remember
it
that
a
one?
4. Yeah, I gave it a 4. I think.
I wouldn't necessarily
I
give
have
it
a 4
but
and a 2 in this season so far.
Is tomorrow the two?
Yeah. And that was generous. Why is Khan now 40 years younger and living in Toronto? Like, that didn't need to happen. That's the stupidest thing Star Trek has ever
So
done.
what I take from that episode is the Kirk Laan dynamic, and I think they did.
Which I also hate.
I liked it.
How can Kirk go through the entire Space Seed episode in the entire Wrath of Khan movie and never mention to Khan, who he talks with the entire time through both of those things, never mention that, hey, I had a thing for your ancestor.
He just whispers to him. It's like,
Like it just
well,
screws
what Kirk
with
doesn't know.
canon in unnecessary
doesn't know.
ways, and it's
Kirk doesn't know.
dumb. Of course he knows.
Kirk,
Her last
Kirk-
name is Laan Noonien Singh. You don't think she's related to Kaan Noonien Singh?
But that was a different Kirk. That was a different Kirk. The Kirk that we know didn't experience that.
No, but they have now met.
They have now met, yes. But
So
once again,
still, he knows her ancestor. He would never say, "Hey, Khan, I'm the captain on the Enterprise. Remember when your ancestor was chief security on this very ship?" Like, those things would not come up in a conversation. Like, it's dumb. If your idea is so dumb that it just like obliterates previous things, then it's just like, write it a little better. Like, there didn't need to be a Khan on this in this show. It only creates problems.
I will agree to that. I will agree.
They could
to
have
that.
called her literally. I like her as an actress and a character. They just should have named her literally anything else. And gave her literally any backstory.
She could have been a
other than her
descendant of
being
another.
Khan.
She could have been
Yeah.
a descendant of another person who.
She could be the descendant of Admiral Bill Ross.
Stop it. See,
No,
look at
not
you.
Bill Ross?
Just fits of laughter.
All right, hey Jaemeel, did you know that we are part of a united federation of podcasts?
We are.
Yes, you have stickers that say as such.
I have stickers that I handed out during Comic-Con. So
Awesome.
anyone who
give us a little rundown.
Okay. So I have to first apologize because I met prior to Comic-Con. a bunch of great individuals, Star Trek fans. A Star Trek away team is the group's called on Facebook, and there were a lot of plans of meeting up. Unfortunately, Comic Con did not have that in store for me, and I missed out many of the meetup points. And I missed the panels plural. I didn't actually spend that much time at Comic Con while I was at Comic Con. Um,
Well, they say it's not what
but
it used to be.
well, that being said, from what I heard from the Star Trek people, it is even better than it used to be in terms of a lot of the Trek. There was a lot of Trek content, one, and two. As I mentioned before, the excitement about Trek
Mm.
was there. So there was I went to the booth, Heroes Within, that had a lot of Trek paraphernalia. It had jackets and such that they were selling, and those jackets were selling,
Oh yeah.
and then badges and patches as well. Unfortunately, no lower deck badges made it to the con. They were
Any
in
Rito shirts?
no Rito shirts. They were only doing
What?
they were doing some nice jackets, some actual like away team jackets
Okay.
from various things, and they were selling out. Like I stood there for a while and talked with the uh, the exhibitors there, and you just see people walk up and they're like, "I want to buy that. I want to wear my Trek pride proudly." Sling bags and everything sold out. There was stuff that was sold out there, right? And there was a lot of excitement. And then I also went to the lodge, which was Paramount's offsite, they had a Star Trek section dedicated to it. They had caricatures that you can get. So they had three artists that would draw you, and you had a variety of choices: human, Andorian, Klingon, a variety of things. What
Would they
uniform?
draw you in a Rito shirt?
Not a Rito shirt. You can be in a lower deck style uniform. They had uniforms. They did uniforms.
Okay.
So selected human, um, lower decks, and I had a Tribble with me.
Ah, very
And
good.
I do not have my picture. It's being mailed to me, but there was it was one of the things of the offsite that was constantly a lineup for, right? So there was the Jurassic Park section. It's not Jurassic Park, sorry. The Transformer section, which was always kind of thin. Um, there was the Pet Cemetery section. There was
There's a
various sections.
pet cemetery section?
It
This is the most
was.
random thing I've ever. Is there like a new pet cemetery or
I
something?
believe so. There is, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But the Star Trek um, caricature section was always full. There was always a lineup. They were giving out little pins. By the time I asked for it,
Ah.
sold out, gone. Right?
Like one of these little pins, like these.
No, they had different character pins as
Oh, like
well.
character pins,
Yes,
not the chevron.
but
Oh
I
no.
do have I do have some goodies for the Live Long and Podcast crew. I just have to wait
You're a
for it to be
beautiful
mailed.
human. Though I
I have
fixed your
to.
pun. Do you see? Look at your name. I fixed it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Yeah.
So uh, overall, um, I just want to see this momentum going for
Mm.
it in terms of the
Yeah.
fan base, in terms of the writing and the creation of more Star Trek We need Prodigy back, right?
Yeah.
We don't need
I
another
agree.
movie. Full steam ahead with the shows. Let's
We definitely
Discovery.
don't need a Quentin Tarantino Star Trek movie.
You
We
don't need
don't
that.
need that.
Let's Discovery go out with a bang. Let the best
Let it
writing of
go.
the
Let
no.
it go.
Once again, you've heard my thoughts about redemption,
Yes,
right?
yes. Oh yes,
Let dis-
Star Trek Discovery's worthy of redemption.
let it have an awesome last season,
Yeah.
right? With great writing that we've seen and known that Star Trek can provide,
My problem
right?
is it could be super awesome and I still won't care because it's 900 years past like anything I care about. So I'm like,
Very true.
but
But that being said,
we'll
if
see.
we get a Michael Chan spinoff from it, I think
Oh,
it's going to be
well.
well worth it.
We get the Michael Chan, that Saurian spin-off. What do they call him? They have a name for that Saurian. He sneezes in the turbo lift and stuff. Linus. That's his name. Let's give
Yes.
us the LT Chan Linus spinoff.
Yes. And I think I won my. I think I won it. Let's see. It's not.
You got the Michael Chan signed card.
I
Mm.
think I did. I'm bids and offers. It's not showing up. Let's see.
Well, you
Notifications.
check that out.
Wait.
I'll show
No,
every. Oh, you lost?
I lost.
Oh no! You lost to Michael Chan. He bought his
Someone.
own card back.
Oh. See, I put a pretty high number for my bid, and someone
Yeah.
outbid me. So
Well, there you go, Michael Chan. You're making you got the big bucks.
sorry, Michael. I underestimated the strong
The
appeal that you
allure.
have. Yeah,
Remember, he's the naked butt guy on Kids in the Hall.
true, true, very true.
I could be buying
So,
it for that reason.
United
Yes, we are
Federation of
United Federation
Podcasts.
of Podcasts here. Live long and podcast. Look at Jaemeel and me down in the front row there. A couple of handsome fellas we are. Uh,
Love that
you know.
bandana.
Oh well, it's kind of my thing now. Been wearing them for like 25 years now. I just got to keep going. We also have Locutors of Trek, which this was almost a sample of tonight. And we also have our Command Division, where we review shows like we just did tonight. This is, in fact, a Command Division show. I'm just the acting captain.
Yeah.
But we
You
also
Trekkie
have
trunk.
Star Trek Radio Theater over there at the Ops Division. But of course, yes, in the Science Division, we do many things like Treckle Trunk's the Locutors brand show.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just did a Treckle Trunk. We're catching up. We'll get to the Day of Blood here, and you can follow all the lead up to the Day of Blood and the Day of Blood itself over there on the Treckle Trunk. So if you like your Star Trek comics, and you should, this lead up to the Day of Blood, there's a Defiant series and a Star Trek series. Good stuff. Plus the Dog of War. This is a 5-parter. It's been really fun. There's some good Star Trek comics happening right now. And then there's this other one that we haven't quite got to yet. It's like a follow up to the Star Trek Motion Picture called Echoes. So it kind of carries on that story.
What a time to be a Star Trek fan.
Oh, it's fantastic. We're getting Lower Decks crossovers.
Lower
It's a
Decks
crazy
crossovers that also talks about Enterprise and is hyping up that crew.
Oh,
Like,
that's great. What are they doing
yeah.
over there at Super Mater Brothers, Jameel? You'd know better than I.
Well, next week is going to be the start of Big Brother season 25. So that means we're going to have our cast preview and then also our first episode review. How's that going to work? We'll figure it out because
We don't know.
I'm gonna be running it here from Jamaica, so that's gonna
Oh,
be fun.
shit. How long are you in
But
Jamaica?
till next Thursday,
Oh,
till
wow.
next Thursday.
Good
So
little trip.
yeah, it is
Mhm.
good company too.
Oh, good.
Speaking of Michael Chan, you got the Hellbound podcast with
Oh, we
Alex
do. We have the
Blackburn.
Hellbound podcast there. We do indeed.
With Alex Blackburn,
Yeah, I don't. Did they
audio
put out
horror
an
movie
episode in
podcast.
like the last couple months? I don't know.
It's been a
During
while,
the
but
break.
that's great news for
Yeah.
everyone because if you haven't been listening to it, you can go back and catch up.
True. True.
Yeah.
Just like we have Aiming on Track.
Aiming on track. All right.
It's one of the
That's the
newest
album
addition to the
review.
Federation. Yeah.
Yes, album reviews. So check that out. That's also good.
We
But
also have Hold Up, a
oh,
movie podcast.
you didn't. I had a pun ready for it or a statement. I was talking about catching up. Why not
Oh,
hold
Hold
up?
Up.
Yes, hold up.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut off that
No
sweet
worries.
segue.
That's okay. You
Uh,
have that energy that is just infectious. So
oh,
typically, there's 3 movies reviewed. Sometimes it's 2 movies pre 2000 and one post. And
mm-hmm,
the World Mind and Davin
mm-hmm.
determine if those movies hold up.
We talk, we discuss, sometimes we yell. But,
Yes.
the
What's the next theme?
next
Next theme.
one will be joined by Adam Woodward for real this time because he was supposed to
Ooh.
join us for the disaster movies but couldn't quite make it. That's fine. Go back and check that one out. We talked about the Towering Inferno and On the
Yes.
Beach in Greenland. 2 of those are good movies.
Surprisingly,
Find a
the
way.
last one is. I haven't seen Greenland before, and you've inspired me. You all inspired me to
Watch
check
it.
that out. Definitely.
Miranda Baccarin can do no wrong. She's delightful. Um, and we also have X-Rated. the X-Men
Yes.
animated review show.
Mm.
Ah,
We're
wonderful.
we're in a renaissance of X-Men animated series with X-Men
We
97 coming
certainly
out.
are. And
Yeah.
we're in the thick of it over there at X-Rated with our cast interviews and our reviews of the show to get it all warmed up for 97, and which we will also review once it's out. So
Yeah. You need to
the
review the action
foremost,
figures.
the foremost X-Men animated podcast in the
Yes. I agree.
world. Yeah. So we have an
Um,
interview coming up with the voice of Nightcrawler. That'll be our next interview. So that'll
Guten
be fun.
Tag.
Aid Huff. Yes, indeed.
Guten Tag indeed.
Guten Tag, indeed. What do you think about that, our German listener? Um, and there's also my co-host Andre at X-Rated has the Graphic Histories podcast. And his next
Yes.
interview will be with Eisner Award-winning artist Steve Rude. So check that
Ooh.
out. It's a big get. Oh yes, indeed. The co-creator of Nexus, the comic book. It's been long running. So yeah, check that out. That's our glorious federation.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, of course, Trivial Debates.
Oh, trivial debates.
That
yes.
was the last one. That we had a Pride one last time. The next one's on The Office, I believe.
Is it this weekend? Are they going to
Is
try
this-
for this weekend?
I don't know. I'm not part
I
of
thought
that
they were
one,
trying
so-
for July to do it in July.
Oh no! But I kind of called you out for the one after that.
I did
wanna
hear.
do yes. I would like to do a comic book one and have you and Andre and somebody else fight it out.
Perfect timing for the Fan Expo coming to Canada.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'm all about perfect timing. So let's perfectly time this ending, shall we?
Yes. I
Uh,
have nothing to say anymore. My
Me
drink is
neither.
waiting for me over there.
okay, well, you know what? Happy birthday. That's how I want to end it.
Thank you
And-
very much.
Live long and podcast, everyone. Oh, that wasn't the video.
That wasn't the
Hold
video.
on. Live long and podcast.